And now, I would like to introduce our second speaker of the evening, Alfonso. His speech is titled Protégé. He's a father, he's a graduate at University of Laverne in biology, and he's going to speak about mentorship and protégés. Please welcome to the podium, Alfonso Mendoza.
Madam Toastmasters. This thing to break. So part of my Pathways journey is talking about a protégé. I don't really think of myself as a protégé. It sounds kind of like a car or something. I will define it for you. A protégé is a person under patronage, protection, or care of someone interested in his or her career or welfare. And I generally don't think of myself as ever being a protégé, but maybe I've always thought of myself as being trained, in training. I guess that's more of a modern term that I like to think of myself. Protégé seems a little fancy. It could be French, I don't know, but I don't think of myself as French in any way. So, but I do have a few instances that I'd like to share on being a protégé that I could think of from my past. My first one was when I was an undergrad student at the University of Laverne. My biology professor, who was also my counselor, he wanted me to be the TA for the anatomy lab in the biology department. So maybe he had some sagacious thoughts on this. And his son, also Randy Good, encouraged me to do this. So I actually had two mentors. Randy was actually my TA for the anatomy lab the previous year that I had taken. So it was kind of nice that they had actually thought of me to do this. So I did end up accepting it. And of course, I was excited to fulfill this role, and I was also nervous because I just took the class, but actually lecturing the class, it's a whole different story. And I definitely learned a lot with this process of being a protégé in that department. It was very impactful for me because it made me feel protected in a sense. Especially when you're young and you're learning, you like that feeling. And I felt I was being guided in the right direction because he was my counselor. He must know something. And I felt like they both had my back when I was in this position as the TA for the anatomy lab. And they gave me a lot of responsibility, so I was able to ask them, what do I do? So they said, you're responsible for the lab. So you're responsible for the quizzes, the testing, the grading, all while I was a sophomore in school. So I was relatively young, maybe about 19 years old. And also the people that I was grading, that I was lecturing, were also my age. So it was a little bit of intimidating. So I reached out to my mentors constantly, and they gave me a sense of safety, and their experience led me to lead this lab in the right direction. And also, grading people gives you a lot of insight into how they're going to react to you. So those people that are in the lab that are asking questions, turning in assignments on time is very positive. But then you also those students that are starting to fail the class. So you start seeing behaviors like, wink, wink, hey, how you doing? Or you might get, hey, you got to pass me because I got this sports thing going on. You know what I'm talking about. So it was pretty funny to see that, and my mentors were able to guide me through this process. And I also developed a teaching style that I thought was pretty funny because students would ask me questions and I would say, let's go to your books, let's open the chapter, let's look, and I can guide you in how you would do this. Come to find out, the students thought I didn't know what I was talking about, so I always had to go to the book to give the answer, but I was actually trying to teach them that just go to the book. It's that simple, but what do I know? But it was pretty funny to see how people would react to you. And this was part of what being a protege was learning all the ins and outs. You don't always have the answers, but your mentors are there to give you some advice. They can't do it all for you. You're going to have to experience it for yourself. And of course, because they were my age, I was invited to parties and concerts all the time. So I had to limit my interaction with the students because I was actually grading them. So I had to be really careful. I did go to some, of course, but I was 19. You know, I had to give me a little leeway there. And I also learned that don't always take every job right away. Think about it. Take some time. Somebody had dropped off some ferrets at our biology department, and they didn't want to deal with them anymore. So my professor said, here, you need to take care of them, put them in the lab where all the rats and all this animals that we had. I said, sure, but of course it was a nightmare. If anybody's dealt with ferrets, they smell, they're aggressive. So it was pretty much a nightmare. After a few weeks, I had to just finally say, you know what, I can't handle these animals. I think they're illegal actually in California, so we eventually got rid of them. But I also learned from my proteges, don't just accept something that's maybe is too big of a job for you. So that was a good learning experience being a protege. Another time I was a protege was more recently starting my public health career and mosquito control. It's a very large field of study, public health. So I had many mentors, supervisors, co-workers, professors to choose from. So again, I had the same nervous feelings starting out in this field of public health, mosquito and vector control. And they taught me how to use the health code to access properties, how to decide if something's a public nuisance or not, how to deal with confrontation, because I'm entering private property, so most people are not happy to see me. So I had to overcome that problem because I felt attacked when my mentors taught me, just leave yourself out of it. They're not attacking you, they're attacking what you represent, which is the government. So that's something that I had to learn as a protege on how to deal with the public, which is pretty rough. And now with experience, now it's never easy, but I have an easier time doing it. I'm very clear and precise on what I need to say and do, and that really helps. I also learned how to scare off dogs because accessing property is a big issue. So we carry sticks around with us, so just raising the stick up in the air to dogs always stops them. If not, you can just hit them with it. But in general, the dogs are going to stop when they see a stick or something raised in the air. That's just a little tip I learned, and it does work. So the mentors gave me a lot of advice, and a lot of it worked. Some of it didn't, but that's part of the program. So as a protege, having good mentors was important and impactful because they helped me in my development and career. Thank you, fellow Toastmasters.